You're watching Sightline. Our guest today is Ms. N.Odontuya, mitigating the impact of COVID-19 by increasing children's access to justice project coordinator. So, Ms. N.Odontuya, it's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
So your project is an ongoing project by the International Development Law Organization. So could you tell us what's the project's mission, and also how did you initiate the project in the first place?
Thank you. So the International Development Law Organization has commenced this project since January of this year, and this project has been funded by the European Union Delegation Office in Mongolia, and the project intends to address the key child rights and protection issues in Mongolia through increased access to justice services for children, those who are in conflict with the law, who have become the witness and victims of the violence. And the reason and hierarchical justification for this project is during the pandemic since 2019, we have seen a stark increase in the domestic violence. For instance, the police data indicates 40% of increase in domestic violence cases, of which more than 20% are contacted with the children. So in that sense, children become the most marginalized and vulnerable population when it comes to the domestic violence incidents.
So your project, mitigating the impact of COVID-19 by increasing children's access to justice, was initiated January this year.
Yes, that's right.
And last year, the domestic violence was increased by 40%, and out of which more than 20% is regarding to the child abuse.
Yes, that's right.
So what kind of solutions are considered to be effective in tackling these issues related to the child abuse?
So in terms of effectiveness, the primary responders to the child rights cases are the legal committees for child rights, multidisciplinary teams, one-stop service centers, shelters, and child protection actors at the national level. So in our project, we are intend to train and conduct the trainings and facilitate a couple of capacity building activities for the members of the legal committees of child rights committees. And these members of these committee members are supposed to come work as a team when the child becomes a victim or a witness or even accused or convicted of criminal charges. So in terms of effectiveness, of course, the trainings and capacity building, public awareness activities are very important, and this is the part of the project also is trying to address.
So your project looks at increasing the children's access to justice in order to prevent from child abuse cases. So how effective would you define the Mongolia's current legal framework, which is dedicated to protect the children and also the fulfillment of the child protection laws?
So I would say the national regulation system is quite adequate for the time being, as given the fact in 1990 the government of Mongolia has ratified the Convention on the Child Rights, and following that we have at least 4 to 5 hierarchical bigger laws and regulations endorsed are in effect. For instance, these are the law on child rights, the law on child protection, the law on combating against domestic violence. And following these bigger laws, we have almost 38 procedures and regulations that have been endorsed by the relevant government officials and the ministries. For instance, we have the procedure for functioning of the legal committees for child rights, procedure for accreditation for the child protection services, procedure for multidisciplinary teams. These are all endorsed, are in effect. So to my knowledge, the national regulation system is quite adequate, but when it comes to the state budgeting, funding, sustainable functioning, monitoring and evaluation, reporting, these need to be strengthened further in order to fully effectively implement these laws.
So you said that you are trying to increase the children's access to justice. So what steps are you going to implement that? How can you increase the children's access to justice?
Thank you. So under this project, we have planned a major training activities. This is intended for the members of the legal committees of child rights. We have at the national level 364 members that represent from 21 IMACs in 9 districts, coming from a quite multidisciplinary nature. For instance, the members comprise from court, police, prosecution, investigation, child development, education, and health organizations. And these officials come as a team when it comes when a child case occurs, and these members need to ensure any child is not left behind from any of these child-friendly procedures. And the children, those who contact in law, has to go through these committees so that their rights are protected at any prosecution, court hearing processes. So this nationwide training will take place August and October of this year, and we will train all these 364 members at the national level. And all the members will be able to understand the child rights perspective and child protection approach.
So who will be giving the trainings for these members?
So we have established quite a strong technical expertise of groups. We have professors from the national universities and very technical expertise, have more than 30 years of experience working in child rights and protection issues, and legal experts who have been working as a prosecutor, even in the police and investigators. And a team of up to 5 individual trainers will be conducting and facilitating individual courses for all these members.
Okay, thank you. So you said that there are lots of organizations, legal committees, institutions that work to protect the children at the level of districts and provinces and SOM and BACs. So would you say that these institutions work together and harmoniously? How would you define their cooperation?
Thank you. So existing regulation allows us to establish quite multidisciplinary teams at the national local level. For instance, we have 667 multidisciplinary teams at the SOM and BAC levels. Those are obliged to facilitate the public awareness activities and also to facilitate the case management processes for children as well. So the legal committees for child rights, there are 32 committees represented at IMAC and district levels. And these 2 functions comprise of quite interdisciplinary sectoral coordination. Those are represented by the health, education, police, prosecution in schools, and child development and protection organizations. So in that sense, if we really can strengthen the effectiveness of these committees, yes, we do have this mechanism that is quite interdisciplinary.
Okay, so next question is also similar. So is there a strong enough work force for the protection of children in Mongolia? So you said that you were going to conduct training this August and also October.
So it's a very important subject area of work, especially in terms of strengthening the child protection system in the country. As I've said, there are 667 multidisciplinary teams working at the SOM and BAC levels, and 32 committees comprised of 364 members of the legal committees, and one-stop service centers and shelters, and all the staff of these mechanisms should be aware of the child rights and child protection approach and what are the principles and the international standards when it comes to protect the rights of the children. So it's very important that we provide this systematic, regular and persisting capacity building and information sharing, skills building activities for all these members throughout the country every year. So, for example, in 2019, a nationwide training has been conducted for all members nationwide for the legal committees of these child rights committees. But since then, we had a parliamentary election in 2020, so which results like 60% of these committee members has been changed. So this is an indication that these regular trainings and information sharing is very important to ensure everyone has the same level of knowledge and information.
So would you say that there are enough people working for the child protection sector, or will there be hiring more people to work in the sector?
I would say it's quite adequate, and this year the National Police Agency has hired 123 new police officers. Those will be in charge of the child protection issues. When I say adequate in terms of the workforce, number of staff are adequate, but whether they have the same level of knowledge and information is a question. So that is the part the project is trying to intend to address.
So it also said that project will work to actively incorporate children's voices. So what's the importance of participating in making decisions based on the children's voices, and how are you going to ensure that children's voices are heard by the decision makers?
Thank you. So under the third output of our project, we are developing a child workbook that is intended to empower children with information and proper knowledge how to protect themselves, know their rights, and how to engage with their friends and respect the diversity. And this workbook is intended for the school-age children from 9 to 12. And those are really coming from transitioning from preschool to formal schooling. And this is a very critical age group for children when they start learning to become friends and really engage in a wider community in the formal schooling levels. So we will involve these children as well in the development process, pre-testing, and conduct training for them and exchange ideas and see what's their real aspirations and future endeavor that they are dreaming of.
Will you pick the children randomly, or are there target group of the children who will be sharing their voices?
I think this will be a random selection, and we will not. The idea of this workbook is not really a targeted or tailored need. It's more for children; those are in a specific age group.
Okay. So, could you name some of the challenges that you are facing in order to implement your purpose of increasing the children's access to justice to mitigate the impact of COVID-19?
So it's really the pandemics, the lockdown measures and travel bans impede the smooth implementation of our project activities. And especially children, those are accused or become the victim and witnesses of any types of domestic violence or violations, had to stay for a prolonged period of time at the shelters and one-stop service centers. And it's a real-time support for those children. It's kind of under limited support, especially at the local levels.
So, Ms. Odontuya, what aspects of your project would you like to highlight to our audience about the project implementation?
So European Union has generously funded this project. Although it's a 15-month project, it's very important that these children, those are in the framework of the legal committees for child rights, are adequately funded and supported during this pandemic's period. And I would like to emphasize the dedication of the European Union for Mongolia's children during these difficult times. And also under our project, we are also working with local civil society organizations to increase the number of accreditation for interested organizations. For instance, this is not only the work of the government or the government officials and agencies to protect the rights of the children during these times. It is also a very strengthened coordination and cooperation with the civil society organizations is very important. So in that sense, we are trying to facilitate this process to increase this accreditation for these organizations so that every child, even in remote areas, have this access to justice services. And the third dimension of our project I would like to highlight is the cooperation with the National Police Agency. We are developing a training of trainers manual that are tailored for the police officers in charge of the child protection issues. And we will train up to 30 police officers on child rights and child rights-based approach when they deal with children on child case management and prosecution investigation processes. And these trained child protection officers will train another 60 peer child protection officers at the local level. And these are the three things I would like to highlight.
Okay, thank you. So your project is EU funded, and also you're working closely with the local civil society organizations and the police.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
So our time is coming to an end, and what final message do you have for our audience?
So Mongolia is quite a young population, with over 30% of the population is under 18 years of old. And it's the responsibility of all of us, including the parents, to have this highest responsibility and dedication to our children, that the next new generation have their full potentials for growth and prosperity. So no child is left behind without any adequate care, protection and love.
Ms. Odontuya, thank you very much for coming here in our studio and talking about your project.
Thank you for having me.
You've watched Sightline. Our guest today was Ms. Odontuya, mitigating the COVID-19 impact by increasing children's access to justice project coordinator. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.